Hey guys, welcome to the webinar. Where this isn't really a full webinar. Welcome to the Q&A for the week. I see there's just a few people on. We're gonna let people give them a little bit of time to show up. This is just a Q&A, so whatever it is you guys want to ask me, you get a chance to ask me regarding business, entrepreneurship, relationships, or just about anything else you need. And so we're just gonna allow people just a few minutes to join up. And then we'll go ahead and get started. Make sure you use your chat box to go ahead and ask any questions you want, and I will get to them in order. Hey Trishan, how are you? From Toronto, Canada. How is Toronto for business, Trishan? You guys got a lot going on over there or no? Or it's pretty dead? All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm just going to start answering your questions. I know a lot of you have pre-submitted questions. Some of you are trickling in as we're going. So feel free to, if you are joining us late, feel free to go ahead and put your questions in the little chat box. And then I'll be glad to answer them as much as we can. One of the things to consider this week is that we have this third circle theory course, the one that I've actually taken 6 months to make based on my best-selling book. Specifically on sale now, typically for Academy members only, but there's many of you on this call who are not going to be members who still can have access to the special promo right on the URL on your screen with the coupon code MASTERY just to take $100 off. So very cool, Trishan. I appreciate you answering my question. Feel free to ask any question you want at this point. I'm just going to start answering questions in the order they're received. So Brett asked, is it necessary to be funded, or does it depend on what product it is? There's no necessity to get funding in business. I'm just going to answer that in a way that's, I guess, subjective to understanding if you need funding or not for a business. It's very hard to go in a line of work that's in a very saturated market and start a new business without funding. It's very easy, though, to go into a niche and start a business and test out a product. So it really depends on what you're trying to do, Brett, specifically as to what would work or not. Your other question, what is the best preliminary or most important or general research to do no matter the product? I think one of the really important concepts of that is to make sure that you understand if there is a competing product and if it's working or not. There's a lot of people out there that assume that if a big company is selling a product, it's automatically a good product. On the other hand, that's not always true, right? Or a company could sell one product out of 50, and that could just look like one of those. On the other hand, you also have this whole concept that people are going to be able to. Can you guys hear me? I'm not sure if you guys can hear me or see me because it looks like it dropped. Hello? Did I lose you guys? Okay, no, okay, so you guys can hear me. So what I was saying is, some of the research is to make sure that the preliminary products that are out there that you're looking at as your competitors are actual real products and they're actually selling. Once you know what your competitors are doing, then it kind of gives you a gauge on if they've already tested the market or not, which makes sense as to actually moving forward or not. Let's see, Chandon says, let me see here. Sorry, what is your advice for raising seed capital? So, I mean, I think for raising capital, you have to have a proven concept in most cases. What that means is you have to have the opportunity to actually like take something and show that it worked on a small scale, and you need money to make it big time. I think that's just the best way to look at raising money, instead of looking at it as and saying, hey, other people are doing this, so this is going to make a lot of money. Create something, show that there's some kind of motion, and then go to a few people that can help you raise money and say, listen, I got all of these things going on. And then as a result, you know, like I'd like to additionally take an additional $5 million because that's going to help us get from here to here. I think there's two things that people who invest in businesses know. A, no matter how much money you take up front, you're probably going to need more on the back end. So are you really aware of that? And then the second piece is really understanding this whole concept that people like to invest in proven concepts that have shown some type of minimal motion forward, rather than in concepts that are completely new, have no validation, and have no real team behind it. The other thing too is a lot of people start to invest in companies that have good teams behind them. And what I mean by that is, let's say you want to be an automotive manufacturer and you say, I want to create a new car, then you got to start asking yourself, like, are you in a position to be an engineer or someone that can really provide value to the team? Just going and saying, like, I'm going to go ahead and just start and disrupt an industry without having a basis for it or the skill set to even be in that industry makes it very hard to be kind of like taken seriously. Jared asks, wait, Jacob asked first, should you worry how long it's going to take to reach your goal? No. But you should be alert or aware of what that means as it pertains to your life. So if you're going to take a 10-year stretch, you need to make sure you understand that you're capable of running like 10 years while supporting yourself if there's no money. So you have to understand the size of the goal you're undertaking to make sure it's worth undertaking it and that you're in a position to be able to undertake it. Jared asks, how does one live, not survive, but live? That's subjective on you. I don't know what living means to you specifically. To me, living means being able to find fulfillment and being able to find satisfaction in the work I do. I think that is where, you know, the most, I guess, fulfilling part of my life comes from. Surviving is a state of mind. If you set your goals very low and you're working towards constantly increasing your income, you typically will always be in a survival mode. While your income may increase, your expenses increase too, and you become one of those guys that is constantly chasing the money, which ultimately doesn't realize that they're spending the money twice as fast as they're chasing it. So it creates a lot of conflict, and so I highly don't recommend that. I recommend focusing on work that makes you feel good. Caleb asks, why are you doing these AMAs? What's different from the Academy? This isn't an AMA as much as it is my opportunity to talk to you guys and help you guys get unstuck. There's very few people out there who have business questions and who are able to get business answers immediately. I wanted to do these so it's more intimate with people and it gives them the opportunity to ask questions, gain a different perspective, and hopefully as a result of it, you know, get unstuck. Tristan says, trying to start a business at the moment, do you recommend going with something other people have done, drop shipping, home flipping, etc., something brand new that you could start? I think, Tristan, that's a very good question. You gotta be honest with yourself and ask yourself, are you in it to make money or are you in it for the long term? What I mean by that is there's ultimately a lot of opportunities to make money out there. There's a lot of ways you can make money. There's a lot of ways you can create businesses. It all comes down to your capacity and what's important to you in terms of how long you want to be doing it. I think that it's important to note, it's very important to note that, you know, if you have no business experience, if you have no fresh ideas, if you don't really know what you want your passion to be or what you want to focus on, then I do recommend going back to something like home flipping, drop shipping, or something that has somewhat of a path to gain some kind of exposure to the business arena before jumping on something bigger. If you have a really good idea and you buy into it and you say, hey, this is something that I believe in and I can bring it to life, then it also makes sense the other way around too, right? So it's all, again, subjective to what's important to you and what you're looking for, you know? So I don't think there's a right or wrong here. I think it's just your level of comfort. Let's see, Misty asks, were you calling out Ty Lopez on a video I saw on Facebook riding a McLaren? I was calling out a lot of people, you know, which sell this idea of this bullshit lifestyle that they never earned or did anything for. And as a result of it, end up sharing it as a means to talking about how they made money. I mean, look, to this day, I know what Ty Lopez did or does for a living, but a lot of you guys don't even know. And I'll ask a lot of people who are actually his followers, what are the 3 businesses that Ty Lopez owns? How can I Google them? How can I reach out to his team? How can I make sure that they're real people and they've had this business for a while? And reality is nobody knows. And that's exactly the predetermining factor for where not to get your information. Nobody is questioning if Ty Lopez has money or not. I've never called him out on having money. I don't really care how many cars he has or how big his bookshelf is in his garage or how many Russian models he fucks a day. It doesn't change anything for me. What it does do, though, it bothers me that he spends so much money on YouTube only to affiliate market other garbage products and try to sell them to people in a clever way. He's a fantastic marketer, but reality is we're in a time where we need leaders that help change the way people learn, not people that are out there to make a buck off of everybody as fast as possible and then disappear, which is what the Ty Lopez model is. So I'm not a fan. Many of you may be. That's fine. You choose who you follow and why you follow them. That's just your personal preference. Steven says, do Aston Martins have cup holders? I love your content on YouTube. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. And Aston Martins do have cup holders. They're usually hidden in the front, actually. It's a little bar that comes up, so the last 2 cup holders are fine. Chandan says, why do investors prefer a team of founders over a solo founder? It's not always the case, but in most cases they do, because a team of founders bring together a team of experts, each in a different arena. And typically, when someone puts together a team, it means they understand that they're in this for the long run and they're not interested in just trying to milk it for as much money as they can. Investors are not looking for people who want to milk companies out of money. They're looking for people who want to grow and scale companies. So that's why, you know, they consider that ultimately good or bad, but that's how that works. Guys, again, if you joined late, make sure you go ahead and put your questions in the chat box. You can ask me anything you want about business, entrepreneurship, relationships, my own businesses, or anything else. Feel free to put it in the chat box and I'll answer to it. When we run out of questions, unfortunately, this Q&A ends. It is not a preset time. So go ahead and make sure you put these in. David asked, how much money do I need to launch a detailing business in Florida like the one you did when you were young? Well, David, really simple. You would need the ability, maybe $100 worth of products, maybe another $100 worth of flyers or cards, business cards, and then it's pretty simple. It's like $200–300 investment to start making some money. Ariel asks, when is Radius going to be available? What's all the buzz about it? Can you talk a little bit about what's in it? Radius is the follow-up. Excuse me, my allergies are killing me. Radius is the follow-up to Third Circle Theory. So when I wrote Third Circle Theory, I wrote Third Circle Theory in a sense to try to bring together a comprehensive work on awareness, self-awareness, and how and where some of these abstract words like passion, purpose come from. How can someone put these things together? I try to kind of have a piece of work that would help people understand why they are how they are. Now, I understand it was positioned as a business book, and it did touch on business subjects, but the majority of the book was not really a business book on how to build a business. Radius, which stands for Reaching Across Different Industries, Uncovering Solutions, is a breakdown of my usage of Third Circle Theory concepts to build multiple businesses, many who've succeeded, others that are just flatline, but your understanding into how to create businesses that connect the dots forward, not backwards. Now, does it mean that you are going to learn how to market a business? Not necessarily. What Radius is it teaches you the skeleton, like the infrastructure of how products and ideas turn into businesses, businesses to brands, brands into empires. And what are the steps along the way that ultimately allow you to create this wire diagram of your kind of new empire, and where do things fit into it? Which is why I said it's about connecting the dots forward. And I write very unique work that has very little to do with what's already on the market. So I can tell you that anytime, at any moment, when you read any of my books, you're always going to have kind of a lot of aha moments, and you're also going to be very, very shocked at how original the work I put out is. I'm very proud of Third Circle Theory. I'm very proud of Radius. I actually just finished the second round of edits, so I'm very excited about the book coming out in April. So it's going to be available probably end of April. If you haven't yet, go to powerofradius.com and sign up to be notified when it comes out. Demian asks, why do you say that usually a business owner is not necessarily an entrepreneur? Okay, so a business owner is someone whose main job is to turn a profit. Let me try to make this very simple. You turn a profit, that's your job as a business owner. You start a restaurant, the job is to make money. You start a car dealership, your job is to make money. You sell ice cream, your job is to make money. It's not a bad thing. Money is very important. You find a way to make it. You're a business owner. You rely on yourself. You control your hours. An entrepreneur is someone whose role is to advance or facilitate the advancement of how we think, how we act, or how we interact. And so I believe that entrepreneurship and business have a very thin line separating them. In many cases, and I talk about this in my new book, Radius, but in many cases, entrepreneurship at some point or another becomes a business in order to be mass public accepted, and uses the method of a business to infiltrate households. On another side, you have business owners who run in business and find a lot of success turning a profit, and eventually, as a result of that success, are able to be entrepreneurial and advance something in their industry. One way or another, you have different people doing different things, and I think both interact and meet at many points. Will says, can I apply to the Secret Academy Challenge if I'm not in the Academy? What do you have into consideration when picking a winner? So the Secret Academy Challenge is actually closed currently. It is undergoing. The challenge itself has now begun, so therefore 3.0 registration is closed. You do have to be an Academy member to participate in the challenge. And you can find more information at secretacademics.com to become a member of the Academy, and secretacademychallenge.com to learn more about the challenge and actually get notified when the next one is open. So we pick people based on self-accountability. People set a goal on their own, and based on self-accountability and their ability to keep a journal of their success, and ultimately at the end actually blow through their goal. We pick a total of 3 finalists. The best one wins a $20,000 check from me. Tristan asks, where do you live in Florida? And do you know any ways for entrepreneurs to move to the US? I'm hoping to do it for an employer, work for a business owner for free, get experience in a green card. I'm not an immigration lawyer, so I can't really tell you how to get to the States, but I live in South Florida, which is near Palm Beach. And I don't know if you can move here as an entrepreneur or not, like I said, because I'm not really a real estate lawyer. She asked, how do you scale a t-shirt brand? It's a good question. It's all subjective to what your t-shirt's about. I mean, I think that if you think about if you think about clothing in general, it's a really bad business to be in. It's like, it's got high overhead, a lot of work and very little reward because there's so many of them. And any business that is so easy to penetrate usually is saturated above and beyond anything else. That said, here's something that's really important. So if you're going to do a t-shirt brand of any size, I think the number one thing you should focus on isn't so much how to sell it, but it's really to create a design that's going to be above and beyond appealing to the world. So appealing, as a matter of fact, that it needs to be the design just needs to be so unique that that's the reason it kind of becomes successful. So it's really, really important to understand that if you're going to be scaling a t-shirt brand, at the very least, focus on design more than you think, meaning more than just, oh, I found something that's cool, I'm just going to launch a t-shirt company. And try to have cohesive designs that stand for something in the long term. I think it'll help you. Sai says, I feel I'm doing a lot better than most of my family and friends, but I see at other entrepreneurs and I feel defeated. I am 30 years old. Is that normal? How do you cope with comparison? So everybody's circumstance is different and everybody comes from a different place. I don't think it is necessarily important to compare yourself to other entrepreneurs, even if they started at the same time you did. It's irrelevant because every person is different and every person follows kind of a different path for themselves. So I don't recommend you focus so much on what you can control. And instead, I recommend you focus a lot more on what you're doing and how to get better at it. Peter says, how did you meet Andy Frisella? I reached out to him before he was any famous or anything else. At the time, I thought his company was worth doing a story on. I did it, and I think just based on the recognition he received from the Secret Entrepreneurship Academy, he ended up kind of getting a lot more popular and starting his own thing from there. Chandan asks, what are some things that you wish you had known when you started working? Big fan of your McLaren talks. Well, the good news, Chandan, is I decided to keep my McLaren, and I'm ordering a new 720S, so you're going to see a lot more awesome McLaren talks in nicer McLarens, definitely. To answer your question, I think one of the biggest things that I learned when I started working for people was that I used to think I worked for people. And I think that's the thing. I had a job and I used to think that I worked for other people. Reality was, though, I really didn't work for anybody. I never worked for anybody. Even when I had a job in banking and telemarketing, even when I was really young, I really wasn't an employee of anybody. I accepted the fact that I had a boss. But reality was that I misunderstood the idea of employment. I thought employment was about, slaving for someone else. When I started really looking at it from a different perspective, I understood that, to me, employment really was just me trading my lack of skill, but rather time, for someone else's thought skills. And the more skills I earned, the more my time would be worth, and so on and so forth. I realized quickly that I and you and anybody else who works for someone else is consciously making a decision to do so and is getting paid to do so. Therefore, it's just natural and it makes sense to not assume that you're ever working for anybody else and that anything you do ultimately ends up being a reward to yourself because you're the one getting paid. So once you start changing your attitude towards working for others and understanding that working for others is no different than working for yourself, you start becoming much better and focusing on skills rather than money. Nene asks, do you have secret academy members that have become teachers or mentors of others? Yes, as a matter of fact, we have 3 of them that have become teachers and mentors in the academy, which I'm very proud of. They started from nothing. They're all 3 are very young and they're 25, and all 3 have had massive success with 7-figure companies. Norris, how do you put together your team of employees when you need a key role covered like a CEO or project manager? You shouldn't put a project manager or CEO in place of a company that has not found enough success on its own. So the only time you fill positions like that is when you have a process in place and it's very clear as to the quality of the individual you'll need to fulfill that process. I think that's important. Ned asks, how does a person become more engaging with others? For example, even in this webinar, when an opportunity to ask questions to a successful person, almost nothing comes to mind, but I'm sure something will later. Hope that made sense. Okay. Ned, I think, one of the biggest problems people have in the world is not that they don't have access to mentors, is that even when they do, they don't know what to ask. So trust me, you're not alone there, buddy. It happens to a lot of people. They don't know what to ask. First, they start shooting the shit about cars, which is pointless. You can talk cars with any of your friends. You don't need to do that. Then they start asking basic questions, which you can go on Google and find out. And I think the reason that is because people, when you say, how does someone become more engaging with others? People have lost this need or this desire to get to know other people. So if people wanted to really get to know people, just on the basis of getting to know people, they would interact with others. But the reality is we are in a world where we have been brainwashed for the past few years on thinking that the only way we interact with people is when we need something out of them. And that's not true, right? That's not how we interact with people. Think about it. We must interact with people on the basis of wanting to genuinely get to know them. And I think a lot of people, just misunderstand this very simple concept. That when you meet people, don't have a predetermined notion of what you want out of them. Get to know them, listen to them, talk to them, and as a result of it, hopefully form a better relationship that enables you to become a better person as a result of it. Eric, have you ever had a shitty partnership that you had to break up? How do you do that in a way that's unappealing? I mean, partnerships, good or bad, are a reality we all face. Marriage, relationship, same thing, right? I think you get to a place where if you've made a decision that you can no longer be into a partnership, you need to get out of it. There's no clean way to get out of a partnership. There's no clean way to get out of a marriage. The only thing you have to do is decide, is this something you can put up with or not? If you can't, then you need to move forward by understanding that the pain will later kind of dissipate. But if it doesn't get done, the pain will become worse. So you kind of have to think about it this way. If you got to a place where you got an infection and they told you had to lose your hand right now, or you may lose your entire arm or be paralyzed forever, you got to understand that you got to be willing to lose your hand. And it's the same thing in a partnership. So you got to ask yourself how much you're willing to lose and actually do it. Min asks, how does a wantrepreneur become an entrepreneur? You don't. A wantrepreneur doesn't need to become an entrepreneur. You need to start working for others. You need to start becoming a business owner, make some money, and eventually allow your experiences to dictate the direction, the entrepreneurial direction you choose to take. She asks, what do you think would be a good business to get into financial-wise? I'll give you something that I think I've taught a lot of people over the years. It's not what you do, it's how well you do it. So it's not what you do, but how well you do it. I really, really recommend that you don't focus so much on what to do, but rather whatever you choose to do, just do it better than everybody else. If you do that, I guarantee you financially you'll be set. Tristan asks, if you had a laptop and $5,000 and needed $150,000 in 24 months, how would you do it? I would day trade. I think that's the simplest and correct answer, especially because I don't know what kind of skills you have. I think it's the easiest way to do it. Or I would flip watches. Check out watchconspiracy.com. If anything, that's a site I put together I think is helpful for making some side money. It actually works really well for a lot of our members. Timmy asks, what does hard work mean to you? Hard work doesn't have anything specific. I mean, in terms of hard work, really, I think it's misunderstood because a lot of people are like, well, you got to work a lot of hours. Other people are like, well, if you don't work smart, you're an idiot. I think it's commitment more than anything else. It's the ability to walk through walls when they're in front of you. It's your ability to find ways around problems when no one else has an answer. So I think that it's very simple. I mean, I think of hard work as someone who just genuinely understands what needs to get done and is willing to do it and doesn't make excuses why it's not happening. I think that's the best way. Even if you take days off in between, I don't think the amount of days off is what I consider if you work hard or not. Chapman says, what ways would you suggest to connect to mentors? That's a really good question. I think there's ways just by being in the academy. I don't know if you're part of the Secret Entourage Academy. You can join us at www.secretacademics.com. If you're not, I mean, look, at the end of the day, anybody can be a mentor to you. I think the way you find mentors is you find mentors who have done things you want to do, but still have some kind of commonality with you, enough to be able to connect on another level outside of business. And as a result of it, that friendship will eventually turn into a mentorship. Akash says, I found it on YouTube not so long ago. I love the idea of joining the academy. Sorry, my allergies, guys, are killing me. Why did you decide to create it? I created the academy because I wanted a place where people who had no access to information or didn't understand how to use centralized information like on Google, etc., would be able to come together and ultimately gain access to relevant, current, up-to-date, and necessary information. And so I put together this academy to help guide people into a heightened level of awareness that eventually leads to entrepreneurship and eventually leads to just having this idea that you are in full control of your life at any given time. In business, do you have any advice for beginning the stages of stepping away and letting go from the day-to-day stuff and the people you hire and your team take control? Matt, that's a good question. I think one of the ways you can make sure that that goes smoothly is making sure that the training is there and making sure that the results are happening even without your presence. And then making sure you're entrusting the people that are able to function on their own. One of the most challenging aspects of my job is sometimes managing entire teams that are across the country, if not the globe, and not having the opportunity to see them on a day-to-day basis. It's very easy to motivate people. It's very easy to have conversations with them in person. It's much harder when they're very far from you and not able to be there. But in the case that when you remove yourself from a business, well, you're doing that ultimately. You're taking yourself away from the day-to-day motivation. So I think that the key to successfully transitioning from yourself to getting people to work in your business so you can work on it instead of in it is to just make sure that the people who work in it are capable of self-sustaining themselves without your presence. If they're not, then you haven't done a good job coaching them enough, so you need to stay in your business. Costas says, when starting a clothing brand, should you manufacture overseas with better fabrics and more fitted, or start locally and very simple like a simple t-shirt? There's no right or wrong answer, Costas. It's whatever you want to do. I think overseas has more leverage if you know how to do it. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. She says, when should you realize that your business won't make it and start something new before wasting more time? I think when you've had a string of bad months and you no longer see the vision or believe in it, I think it's time to move on to the next step. Leo asks, what's the difference between $1 million business and $1 billion business? People, my friend, people. How many people and how good the people are around you. I think that's the big difference. Artemio asks, what would you recommend to be happy with one's life? I don't really understand what that means. I mean, what would you recommend to be happy with one's life? It depends on you. I mean, I don't know what your happiness is, you know, like that's subjective to what makes you happy and how fulfilled you feel as a result of it. Jesus asks, what is the best business model right now? Okay. I don't think there is no such thing as a best business model. There's a business model and then your ability to execute it or not. I think the most relevant business model is the one that's going to be closest to your capacity and skills, not so much the one that people are making money on, because that's not going to help you whatsoever. Honza asks, how do you stay motivated and keep on progressing day in and day out to get closer to your vision? There's two types of motivation, Honza. There's internal motivation and external motivation. Internal motivation is why you do something. External motivation is cars, lifestyle, the things you want to buy, the things you want. They're both okay, but only internal motivation will get you out of bed and keep you going. External motivation will just remind you of how close you are. So think about it that way. Find your why and you'll find your motivation. Sassy, any advice for mature entrepreneurs? That's too generic to answer, other than you're never too old, and welcome to the era of Google. There's nothing you can't find. So I think age has no longer relevance on success. Arya asks, your website is awesome. Do you plan on putting more emphasis on using the forums? They aren't that active. I feel like they could be used a lot more than now. It's a very good question, Arya. We're actually working on developing an actual social network within our own business, meaning like a secret version network that allows people to join and ultimately connect. If I think that the forums are just an older way of doing business, and I think they're eventually going to go away. I don't want to take down the secret research forum, but I say this because I think there's just a huge opportunity for us to be more connected to one another via social platform. Let's see. Soul says, what are the main traits of successful entrepreneurs after interviewing so many? I think heightened level of awareness, understanding their own internal capacity, and then also just not being willing to adapt and not so focused on themselves. I think that those are the three things I'd say. David, how do you deal with schoolwork, social life while trying to become an entrepreneur? That didn't even make sense. There's no such thing as balancing school, work, social life. Nobody gives a shit about your social life. You care. Nobody gives a shit about your school. You care. Nobody gives a shit about your work. You do. There's only life. So you only have so many hours. You choose what's most important and you do that first. Matt, do you believe as an entrepreneur that your first business should be close to self-sustaining before starting a second or third? It's actually funny you ask this because this is the essence of my entire book, Radius, which again, guys, if you haven't yet, you can go to powerofradius.com and find out how to sign up to make sure you're notified. It's coming out in April, and it's the follow-up to Third Circle Theory. I think that if you can recycle your existing customer base or your resources to get into a new business, you can do that anytime. If you can't and you're going to start something completely from scratch, you're in the auto industry and suddenly you're going to go to making cell phone cases, I think you should be at a place where you have a lot of confidence in your model and its ability to kind of keep going. I think I would look at it that way. She asked, what do you do when you don't know what to do? Well, you tend to slow down a little bit, self-analyze a lot more. I don't believe you've read Third Circle Theory. There's a link on top of your screen. You can go ahead and use that. You should read that book. That's why I wrote it. I think it'll answer a lot of your questions, She. Ariane, thanks for that answer. This isn't a question, but if you could contact the CEO of Do You Even Clothing, he has built that company amazingly. His name is Eddie's Ortuz. Yeah, I mean, look, if you want us to interview someone in the academy and you are an academy member, all you have to do is go to the academy. There's a section in your account box where you can actually submit teachers you'd like me to interview, and I do my best to reach out to them. Ned, what is it like to integrate your business as part of your life and deal with relationships? Sometimes I actually worry that I become too rich. I struggle to meet genuine, loving people. If you're a genuine person, you'll meet genuine people. If you're someone who's just worried about your money, you'll only meet people who are worried about taking it. Try to let that sink in, and hopefully that makes sense. Well, guys, hopefully you've enjoyed this Q&A. Again, if you haven't taken advantage yet, this is $100 off my Third Circle Theory course. Make sure you take advantage of it now. Coupon code's in there. This is usually reserved for Academy members. We have it here for you. Hopefully this has been useful and you can use some of these tips and kind of move on. I wish all of you guys luck. I'll be here again next week answering questions if you have more of them. And definitely hope many of you will join us on powerofradius.com to get information about my upcoming book, as well as if you haven't yet picked up this course, make sure you do so at secretentourage.com/courses/third_circle_theory. And again, the coupon code is on that screen, and that is for today only. Have a good afternoon, guys, and thanks again, or good evening, wherever you are, and thanks again for catching up with me on this Q&A. We'll catch you guys next time.